The first day I was diagnosed with cancer, the doctor told me that I might only have 90 days left. I didn't cry or make a scene, I just cooked 2 dishes and a soup, as usual, and waited for Simon to come home. He didn't return my 6 o'clock call until around 9:15 p.m. He said, "I'm not coming home for dinner." It was really funny. At 9 p.m., if you're not eating dinner, it's called a midnight snack. I reheated the food and ate it with gusto, unable to help but think. My cooking skills are really good. When I woke up, I was alone at home. Simon hadn't returned. It wasn't the first time, so I didn't take it to heart, but I did feel a bit regretful. My last 3 months of life, and he missed one more day of it. In the afternoon, Simon sent me a message, saying he would be home for dinner. He didn't arrive until 8 p.m. when he saw the empty dining table. He asked, "Where's the food?" I pressed my stomach, which hurt so much it made me tremble, and said, "If you want to eat, make it yourself." Simon went out again. There was still leftover food in the kitchen, but when I smelled the lingering scent of Chanel No. 5 on his collar, I suddenly didn't feel like talking to him. He didn't even step into the kitchen. I drove to my mom's house. As soon as she saw me, she grabbed my hand and said I had lost weight, that I looked much more haggard, and asked if Simon was not taking good care of me. I rubbed my red eyes and told her, "It's nothing. I've just been really busy lately." The afternoon sun was warm, and my mom asked me to help move the flowers to the little courtyard to dry. She trimmed the branches, and the warm light stretched her shadow as I lay on the rocking chair, watching her. I didn't want to die. I went to see the doctor. The doctor told me to take my medicine and rest. I asked, "Will this medicine help me live a little longer?" The doctor told me to stay positive and that there was hope as long as I treated it well. But as I reached the door, I heard him let out a weak, pale sigh. Simon came home early today, something rare, and brought me my favorite spicy crayfish. He peeled one for me and tried to feed it to me. I didn't open my mouth because the spice would hurt my stomach even more. He placed the crayfish on my white rice and asked, "Did you visit Mom the other day?" Sure enough, Mom must have called him. I nodded. She said, "You've lost weight." Simon looked me over, holding my thin wrist and murmuring, "You've lost weight, but how did you get so thin staying at home?" It made me feel bitter inside. I'm not just thin, I'm dying. Simon was going to plant a gentle kiss on my finger, but his phone rang, interrupting him. He glanced at the screen, hesitated for a moment, and hung up. "Spam call, don't mind it, let's eat." But I clearly saw the name, Rena, on the screen. Rena is the chief designer of the bridal studio Simon and I co-founded, and also the woman who wears Chanel No. 5 perfume. Honestly, if Simon hadn't insisted I take a break and focus on getting pregnant, I wouldn't have stepped away from my work. That's how Rena ended up in charge. For a moment, I was strangely relieved that Simon and I never had children. After dinner, Simon took the initiative to wash the dishes. After I finished my bath, I lay on the bed reading a book. Soon, Simon came out of the bathroom, took off his bathrobe, and climbed into my bed. "Mina, I missed you," he said. I pulled the covers away from him, turned my back, and said, "I'm tired, let's sleep." I knew exactly what Simon wanted, but I didn't want it, and I certainly didn't want to force myself to cooperate with him. Simon and I woke up around the same time. He hugged me from behind, his chin resting on my neck. "Mina," I broke free from his embrace and said directly, "I'm not in the mood." After being rejected repeatedly, Simon seemed upset. He ate breakfast in silence, left without a word, and didn't even ask why I wasn't in the mood. After lunch, I drove to my mom's house. She was tidying up and found some of my old things, including a few of my diaries from high school, 16 years ago, the notebook from my second year in high school. Almost half of the pages were filled with the letter S, the first letter of Simon's name. He was a transfer student, joining our class in the second year of high school, and the teacher arranged for him to sit behind me. I couldn't count how many times I secretly turned around to look at him while passing the test papers. Back then, I liked to draw, and in my diary, I even drew pictures of him shooting hoops, him doing problems, him sleeping in class, and him gently tapping my shoulder, asking if I could explain how to solve a problem. There was also a small note tucked between the pages, aged by 16 years, the paper now faintly yellow, but the ink still bold. "I don't like fish." And this was about Simon. Once, I ran into him in the cafeteria. His friend suggested the fish was delicious and offered him a serving. but Simon politely declined, saying he didn't like fish. Later, I wrote down that note and tucked it into my diary. My mom noticed I was lost in thought and asked what I was thinking about. I closed the diary and told her, I want to stay here for a few days. She asked if Simon and I had argued. I quickly denied it. In truth, it seemed like Simon had grown too lazy to argue with me anymore. Mom's life was full and active, all planned by herself. She woke me up early one morning, pulling me to the market to pick out the freshest fish, meat, and fruit, even buying 2 pounds of crayfish, saying she would make spicy crayfish for me for lunch. After breakfast, she asked me to drive her to her dance class. I was taken aback. What? She asked shyly. What? Only children can learn to dance, but not this old woman. I quickly reassured her, telling her she was still young, and dropped her off at the dance studio. I asked the young dance teacher if I could sit in on the class. The teacher smiled and said it was fine. Mom changed into a white dance outfit that suited her figure and elegance perfectly. She danced with several women of similar age, their light steps, graceful waist movements, and smiles on their faces. I suddenly felt my eyes welling up with tears. How many years had it been since I really paid attention to my mom's life? And my mom, she knew exactly what she liked, where her interests were, and she was living well. The saying, do not laugh at the woman with white hair and flowers, for time never defeats beauty, must be true. After class, we went home, and Mom went straight into the kitchen to cook. I helped her. I watched her toss a bunch of red, fiery chili peppers into the pan with the crayfish. And the spicy aroma spread through the house. I pressed on my aching stomach and reluctantly ate a few. Mom asked me if Simon could handle eating alone at home, or if I should invite him for dinner. I said it wasn't necessary. He was on a business trip. I hadn't told Simon I was at my mom's house, so he probably didn't know I wasn't home. Mom and her friends entered a dance competition and won first place. Watching my mom on the podium receiving the award, I suddenly wanted to make her a custom dress by hand. There was no good fabric at home, so I drove my mom to the studio Simon and I had co-founded, Me Moon. His name was Simon, mine was Mina, and the studio's name was a combination of our names. Now, with the moonlight still shining, I didn't know if Simon still loved me. It was truly a sigh-worthy thought. I took my mom into the studio, and the young receptionist looked somewhat uneasy and said she would go notify Mr. Simon. I told her I was just picking up something and would leave right away. No need to inform him. The receptionist seemed hesitant, and I had an inkling of why. To avoid an awkward scene, I asked my mom to sit in the waiting area. Sure enough, in the fabric room, Rena was having Simon teach her how to alter a dress to make it more fitting and beautiful. My appearance shattered the somewhat romantic atmosphere. Simon awkwardly pulled his hand back, nervously looked at me, and asked, "Why are you here?" I gave him a cold look. "Just here to pick something up." I went over to grab a piece of fine fabric I had brought back 6 months ago and was about to leave. Rena stopped me, holding onto the fabric. "This piece has already been ordered by a customer. Simon said for me to design it." I glanced at Simon, and he hastily looked away, unable to meet my eyes. I sneered and said to Rena, "Some things, once you touch them, they're just touched, but some things, you can't." My dresses sell for 5 figures, while you were probably still assisting the old master at that time. "You?" Rena looked at Simon. "I'm the chief designer of our studio. Are you just going to let her insult me like this?" Simon pressed his lips together and said sharply, "Give it to her." I took the fabric, but my stomach churned. Simon went home. He called me and asked me to come back. Mom, sensitive as always, noticed that there was something wrong between us and asked me to go back and have a good talk with Simon. Before I left, she handed me the persimmons she had bought yesterday, saying Simon liked them. She also gave me several of my old high school and college diaries, saying, "If you two forget how you fell in love with each other, just read these together. I believe these books will remember for you." My eyes filled with tears. "Mom, it's not that I don't love Simon anymore, it's that he doesn't love me anymore, and I'm dying." When I got home yesterday, Simon had already left again. It seemed like Rena needed him for something important. In the evening, the sky was covered with fiery clouds, casting a golden glow over the horizon. I sat on the balcony, flipping through a book that said, "This is the world," where one person is walking towards death, endlessly longing for the life lit by the sunset, while the other two are seeking pleasure, unaware of how beautiful the afterglow of the setting sun is. I went to see the doctor. He gave me some more medication. I asked him, if I take the medicine on time every day, will I live a little longer, even just 8 or 9 more days? He answered me with a long silence. I asked again, you've faced so many separations in life and death. What is death really like? After a moment, he replied, it's like water disappearing into water. I started sketching designs for dresses. I suddenly thought about finding an old companion for Mom, so that when I die, she wouldn't be too lonely. If she's lucky, they might even grow old together. But then I thought about Simon. Today was the 13th day since my cancer diagnosis. I had lost 10 pounds, and he still didn't know. Forget it. Instead of finding Mom a companion, it might be better to use my savings to reserve a spot for her in a good nursing home. I visited 10 nursing homes before finally settling on one that was good in every way, but I still felt like the elderly people there weren't truly happy, perhaps because they lacked the company of family. Would Simon, given our 5 years of dating and 7 years of marriage, take care of Mom? Sigh, it's probably better not to rely on others. After reserving the nursing home, I transferred the money from my account to a new card, exactly $850,000. This amount would ensure Mom could live without financial worries for the rest of her life. But what if she gets sick and needs treatment? What if there's an emergency and she needs money? I began to think about our studio, Moon. I still needed to find a chance to talk to Simon. I finished the design sketches and started cutting the fabric, when my stomach pain began again. I wished I could swallow a whole bottle of painkillers, but I couldn't take too many, so I decided to distract myself by doing something else. I began flipping through my diaries. In the one from my senior year of high school, there was a quote, a glance of autumn, 1,000 pearls of light, still feels not enough. I used this phrase to describe Simon's eyes at that time. His brows were deep, his nose was high, and the best part was a small mole on his upper eyelid. When he looked up, it wasn't visible, but when he closed his eyes, it appeared. Later, when we officially started dating, I loved kissing that little mole. Simon once teased me, saying that it must be a mark left by me from a past life. When his eyes were open, I was in front of him, and when he closed his eyes and couldn't see me, the mole would appear, turning into my image in his mind. The stomach pain kept me awake. The weather was getting colder, and I longed for Simon to warm my bed like he used to. I watched a movie called Coco. There was a line in the movie, death is not the end of life, forgetting is the end of life. When will the end of my life be? Today is the beginning of winter. I made dumplings with carrot and meat filling. I have mild night blindness, and once I couldn't see the road clearly and twisted my foot. Simon was heartbroken. Later, he told me that eating carrots would help, but I didn't like the taste of carrots. At that time, he tried everything to make me eat more carrots, steamed carrots, boiled carrots, stir-fried carrot strips, carrot juice, carrot-filled dumplings, anything related to carrots, he made for me. I was picky, but I could eat a few bites of carrot juice and carrot-filled dumplings. When we first started our business, he saved money to buy a juicer, and every day he made me carrot juice, and every week we had a meal of carrot meat dumplings. Now, the juicer is covered in dust, and I'm the only one eating the carrot meat dumplings. I bought a calendar. If the doctor's estimate is correct, I will die on December 27th. Sigh, if that happens, will Mom and Simon have a hard time during the new year? I wish I could spend another new year happily with Mom. I wish I could live just a few more days. My stomach hurts so much that I just want to die. I ordered a small cake for myself. When I'm grieving, I always crave sweets. Simon used to buy them for me, but now he doesn't notice my emotions anymore. When the delivery guy came, my face was pale from the pain. He asked me, do you need me to call an ambulance? I forced a smile and thanked him, telling him no, the hospital can't treat every disease. Life and death are fate. Simon came home. When he returned, I was writing in my diary when I heard him open the door. I quickly closed the notebook. He looked a little tired. I wanted to wash a persimmon for him, one I had brought from Mom, but it had spoiled since he hadn't come home for so long. That evening, I almost begged Simon in a pleading tone, can you make me a glass of carrot juice again? But Simon replied, I'm so tired, can't you see? Then, I'm in pain. Can't you see? 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 Last night, Simon forgot to close the window before bed, and I caught a cold. I was half conscious as I slept, and it seemed like he bent down and gently pressed his cheek against my forehead, worriedly saying, "Why are you so hot? Should we go to the hospital?" I didn't want to go. I told him I wanted to eat spicy crayfish noodles and asked if he could make me a bowl. He agreed, but when I opened my eyes, the other side of the bed was empty, and there was no warmth left. It was just a dream. So why was the cold real? The cold and coughing worsened the pain in my stomach. I started dry heaving and coughing up blood. I was getting in 4 by myself. I accidentally fell asleep, and when I woke up, the vein had collapsed, and my hand was bruised. I felt a little better. On my way out of the clinic, I passed by an amusement park. I bought a ticket for the freefall ride. The moment I jumped, I wished the safety belt hadn't been fastened properly so I wouldn't feel the pain anymore. But then I thought, I haven't finished making Mom's dress. After finishing the 4, I spent the whole day working on the dress. When I was tired or in pain, I would flip through my old diaries. I've had a crush on Simon since he transferred to our class in sophomore year. We both got into the same university and spent 4 sweet years together in college. We went to class together, left class together, ate together, watched sunsets together, watched movies together, painted together, did homework together, drank milk tea together, played games together, climbed mountains together, watched the sea together, celebrated birthdays together, made wishes together, watched the first snow together, drank together, celebrated New Year's together. We did so many things together. But recently, the thing we've done the most is sit silently across from each other. The doctor said my body was too weak, and while others only needed 3 days of 4, he insisted I needed 1 more day. Why is it that when others get IVs, they have someone with them, but I don't? Simon called to ask where I put the fabric with the lotus pattern on it. I said, "I'll tell you when you get home." He really came back. I showed him the dress with the button sewn on. "Here." He scolded me for using such good fabric for the button. I pouted and said, "This is for Mom," and the fabric money was paid from my personal account at that time. He didn't say anything. Then I suddenly remembered that I had wanted to get more money for Mom, so I started picking a fight. "Fire Rena." He frowned. I continued, "Or just give me half the value of the studio. I want the money, not the shares." He asked me what was wrong with me. I didn't respond. It seemed like he realized I wasn't joking, and seriously said, "If I fire Rena, who will design the dresses? If I give you half the money, the studio's cash flow will be an issue, Simon. I believe you can find a solution. If you fire Rena, you can design yourself, hire new people, and she's not the only designer, right?" He lowered his head. I continued, "Or just give me the money. If you don't choose either, I have my ways of forcing you to decide. You should trust me. I keep my word and have the ability to do it." Only then did he ask the first question, "Mina, what's really going on with you?" "What's going on with me? Of course, I'm dying." Simon knows my abilities and methods. If my stomach hadn't been tormenting me, I probably would have already taken action and given him a warning while speaking those words. So, he doesn't doubt me at all. Simon definitely can't come up with that much money right away, but he can't bear to fire Rena. He's so anxious that blisters appeared on the corners of his mouth. Rena bought him some medicine for the fire and grapefruit tea. I found this out when I was at the studio picking some pearls for buttons. Rena, looking angry, asked me, "This is his studio and yours too. Why are you pressuring him like this?" I forced a sarcastic smile and said, "It's slipping away. He wants to ruin it. If I ruin my own things, what does it have to do with you?" She looked at me as if I were mad. "Well, I won't be around much longer, so let me be crazy. The dress is almost finished." I found my diary from after graduation, and one page said, "We'll make Me Moon a huge success, with branches all over the country." I can't see that now. When I went out to buy something, I saw someone selling little turtles and thought about getting one to take care of, but then I thought, and casually left, "Who will take care of it when I'm gone?" I sorted through my design sketches from these years and compiled them into a book. I picked one that I thought was pretty good and called up a senior from college. He's also in the dress business and is competing with Simon. We agreed to meet at a cafe, and I sincerely handed him the sketch. He knew I was Simon's wife, the other owner of Me Moon. "What are the terms?" I stirred my coffee and smiled at him. "At the dress design exhibition in 3 days, use this sketch to win against Rena. If you don't like the designer, just fire them, right? But this will hurt me Moon in the end. Simon can't bring himself to do it, after a long silence. My senior nodded. You really are not a soft-hearted person. In the small garden downstairs, several children were playing on the slide. I changed into a different outfit and went downstairs. I sat by and listened to their laughter. A little girl sat next to me on the stone bench. I took 2 square candies out of my pocket and gave her one. She thanked me and stuffed the candy into her mouth, her chubby face puffing out a little. Very cute. The wind was a bit cold, so I decided to go home. As I was about to leave, the little girl suddenly called out to me. She asked me to open my hand, then placed a paper crane made from candy wrappers into my palm before running off. I tucked the paper crane into my diary. I went to see the doctor. He told me I shouldn't stress myself out anymore. Today is the dress design exhibition. My senior sent me a text. Everything went well. Rena posted a status, overcoming difficulties together. That difficult probably refers to me, right? Yesterday, Simon called me several times after 11 p.m. I was sweating from the pain and didn't answer. He came home today. When he saw my pale face, he didn't argue with me but simply said, "If you're not feeling well, you should go to the hospital." I went. But this disease can't be cured. Simon left, taking a lot of clothes with him. I guess he won't be back for a while. That's fine. It saves us from arguing. Before he left, Simon said, "I'll figure out how to get you the money, Mina. Don't go too far." Am I going too far? Am I going too far? Am I going too far? Sitting on the balcony in the sun, I reread The Story of My Life by Helen Keller. She said, "The most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or touched. They must be felt with the heart." I asked my heart. And it said that the most beautiful things also fade little by little, like the sunset at this moment, like the love between Simon and me. One piece of good news, the dress is finished. One piece of bad news, I have about 50 days left to live. I vomited blood again. It stained my high school diary, and no matter how much I wiped, it wouldn't come off, just like how my relationship with Simon could never return to what it once was. I cried hysterically. The first time I've cried like this since my cancer diagnosis. I wanted to take the finished dress to Mom, to watch her wear it and then dance beautifully in it, but I was afraid she would see me looking like this and feel heartbroken. I wanted to tell Mom that I'm dying, but I don't know how to say it. In this world, it's always one of the most heartbreaking things when a white-haired person buries a black-haired one. I wanted to write 2 farewell letters, one to Mom and one to Simon. But after taking out the paper and pen, I didn't know what to write. Never mind, I still have 47 days to think about it. I had a very long, very strange dream. I dreamt of the time when Simon and I started our business together, and I also dreamt of the moment I was wearing a wedding dress, about to marry him. In the dream, just before I said, "I do," my mother suddenly stood up to oppose it. She cried and said that this person would not treat her daughter well. A heavy snowfall came down. I curled up on the lounge chair on the balcony, playing on my phone. Rena posted a picture of the snow outside the studio window. I zoomed in and clearly saw the reflection of 2 people in the window. The pain is unbearable. Suddenly, I remembered that when I was little, I would cry if I scraped my skin from a fall. Now, I can hardly cry from pain. I'm exhausted. 90 days feels like such a long time. The doctor prescribed me new painkillers, increasing the dose. He said that I might feel just a little bit better, and I did feel a little bit better. I cooked myself a pot of plain congee and ate it in 3 meals. I went to the cinema to watch a horror movie. There was a couple sitting beside me. The girl said to the boy, "I'm still so scared." The boy laughed at her and said, "You're weak, but love the thrill." Then he gently covered her eyes with his hand, and she peered through her fingers to watch the horrifying scenes. I really wanted to tell them that in this film, covering your eyes is one way to encounter a ghost. Mom called to ask me to come home for dinner. I lied, saying I was on a business trip, and didn't go. I dreamt of the little wolf dog Dad gave me when I was 1. It passed away when I was 12. Now, I'm 32. Just 20 years later, I've already forgotten what it looked like. In 20 more years, when Simon is 52, will he forget what I look like too? Thinking of this, I opened my phone camera to take a picture of myself, but when I saw my emaciated reflection, I turned it off. Never mind, if he forgets me, so be it. I craved spicy crayfish. My stomach protested. "Do you want to die immediately?" I stopped mid-order. I want to live through the new year. I made a bucket list. 1. See mom wear her new dress. 2. Own a cat. 3. Eat ice cream and spicy crayfish. 4. Celebrate the 7th wedding anniversary with Simon. 5. Wake up and have no more stomach pain. After writing, I silently crossed out the last 4 items. None of them will come true, except the first one. I couldn't eat, so I watched a sitcom I used to love. The main character said to her suitor, "You're great in every way, but you're just not her." Suddenly, I remembered when I was in my 3rd year of college, a junior girl started chasing after Simon. Even after Simon rejected her several times, she didn't give up, with red eyes. She asked Simon what I had that she didn't. Simon held my hand and said, "You're great, but you're not Mina." But now, who's Simon holding hands with? I took out my wedding photos with Simon, 7 sets in total. We took one before our wedding, and one every year for our anniversary since. Our 7th anniversary is coming soon. I wonder if we'll be able to take the 8th one. I'm exhausted. I saw a small burst of fireworks and snapped a photo. I suddenly wanted to text Simon, but in the end, I deleted all the words I'd typed one by one. Sending a message to someone who doesn't love you that much is like gambling your mood for the whole day. Simon transferred me $1 million, claiming it was half the value of the studio. I stared at the transfer, feeling so sad I wanted to cry. "Could you return my 16 years to me? Simon doesn't love Mina anymore." I forced myself to draw a picture of what I might look like at 70. I really wanted to draw Simon at 70 next to me. But I didn't have the strength. Death is a heavy and clean fruit. We eat it, and it heals so many of the ailments of life. I want to tell Mom and Simon that I'm sick. I want them to accompany me during the surgery, to be there with me as I get a new life. But when the diagnosis came, it was already stage 4, and the doctor said surgery wasn't necessary anymore. Simon texted me and asked when we would take this year's wedding photo. I looked at myself in the mirror. My cheeks have sunken. My complexion is yellow, and my eyes have lost all their former light. Forget it, no more photos. This doesn't look like a wedding photo. It looks like a farewell photo. Simon replied, "Take it or don't take it." In my freshman year's diary, December 8th, I want to eat ice cream, but Simon says my stomach isn't good, so I can't. Half teasing, half acting cute, I called him brother. He turned around and went straight to the supermarket. I smiled gently as I watched him. Calling him brother always works with Simon. "Brother, I want ice cream." December 8th. He heated up a can of 8 treasure porridge. After writing my farewell letter to Mom, I also wrote a will and had it notarized. The heir to my estate is Mom. I've almost forgotten what Simon's smile looked like. Mom called again to ask me to come home for dinner. I said no. She mumbled, "Why are you so busy?" in such a cute, spoiled tone. "I'm wondering something. Do we have a next life? If we do, I want to be Mom's mother in my next life and protect her from the wind and rain." I dreamed of Dad, and of my big wolf dog. Dad scolded me, asking, "Why didn't you get regular checkups? Why didn't you go to the hospital earlier? Why aren't you happy?" I dreamt of Dad again. I told him why I wasn't happy. He said, "If Simon treats you badly, why don't you divorce him? Why tie yourself to him? He's involved with that woman. You should be smart, gather evidence, take everything from him, and then go live a happy life with your mom. When fate is right, you'll meet someone who loves you completely. That's the happiness you deserve." Simon, the one who loved me, ultimately got lost. Suddenly, a wild thought crossed my mind. I wanted to destroy our Me Moon by myself. Simon rarely called me. He said the business at Me Moon was struggling and asked to borrow money from me. I hung up the phone. Without Mina, Me Moon would not be Me Moon. I ate a bowl of congee that day. Just before waking up, I dreamed of Dad. He said, "Peace." But as I was about to wake up, the dream began to collapse, and I couldn't tell if he was wishing me peace, or if he was telling me to stay safe. After dinner, I realized I had run out of medication. It snowed, and it was so cold outside. What medication? I had to go get it myself. Freeze to death, freeze to death, freeze to death. The first snow after the clear skies, December 23rd, I made myself some dumplings. Actually, I used to love the mackerel filling. It was so good. I wanted to divorce Simon. I didn't want his name engraved on my tombstone after I died. The countdown, 3 days. If we never meet again, then I wish you good morning, good afternoon, and good night. December 27th, I'm dying. Simon doesn't know, December 28th, I'm still alive. I fought with God for one more day, so I can live until January 6th. January 6th is the day Simon and I got our marriage certificate, our second year of marriage, our seventh year together. We had a huge argument about the studio. Afterward, I cried and asked Simon, are we not going to make it through the 7-year itch? Simon suddenly hugged me and cried with me, Mina, don't cry, we won't argue anymore. Now, our 7th anniversary is almost here, Simon. Are we not going to make it through the 7-year itch? December 29th, I won another day from God. I sent the dress to my mom via express delivery and texted her, your Mina is going on a trip with your son-in-law for the new year. Don't worry, remember to wear the dress and send me a photo. Mom replied with a sly smile emoji, saying, have fun, wear the dress on New Year's Eve, and I'll send you a photo. I replied, great, but will I make it until tomorrow? Sigh, I'll try my best. December 30th, the pain is unbearable, it hurts so much, bargaining with God for time is really painful, but at least I won. This is the first New Year's Eve I haven't had dumplings since I was a child. I didn't have the strength to make them. There was a skit on TV, but it wasn't as funny as when Simon and I used to watch it together. During dinner, Simon sent me a message saying he wouldn't be coming home for the New Year's dinner. I said okay, I didn't make dinner anyway. Mom sent me a photo of her in the dress. She looked so beautiful, but as I looked at it, I started crying. Sorry, Mom, I really don't know how to say goodbye to you. January 1st, the 4th day of fighting with God for time, I won again. I wrote my farewell letter to Simon, and it only had one line. After January 6th, let's divorce. January 2nd, the 5th day of fighting with God for time, I won. Every year, Simon and I would go back to my parents' home on the 2nd day of the new year. This year, I told Mom I was going on a trip with Simon for the new year, and I told Simon I was going to Mom's for the holiday, January 3rd. After 6 days of fighting with God, I finally read the New Year's greetings from my friends. I replied to each one carefully. Compared to things like promotion and prosperity, the one I liked the most was from an old intern at the studio. The young girl wished me, may you have peace and smoothness, and may you be happy every day, January 4th. I feel like I can't win against God. I had a long, long dream. I dreamed that my mom was angry at me for not telling her that I was sick. Then, I went back to the beginning. I had 3 months left. This time, both Mom and Simon went with me to the hospital. After Mom found out I had stage 4 stomach cancer, she cried behind my back. But in front of me, she still smiled and asked, Mina, what do you want to eat? How about spicy crayfish noodles? But I won't spoil you by putting too much chili in it. Simon didn't have any ambiguous feelings with Rena. He pushed all the studio work aside and took me around the country to see famous doctors. But the doctors all sighed in unison. Simon held the doctor's hand, almost kneeling, begging him to prescribe medicine. The doctor said, it's too late, it's useless now. Simon didn't listen. After getting my consent, the doctor reluctantly prescribed chemotherapy drugs. Watching him excitedly call my mom, Mom, the doctor prescribed medicine for Mina. She's going to be saved. I silently endured the pain of chemotherapy. Chemotherapy was really unbearable. Not only did my hair fall out every day, but I also started gagging and coughing up blood. Simon carefully brushed my hair, afraid of pulling out even one strand. After finishing my hair, I sat in a sunny spot, counting the days on my fingers. 60 days left. I want to make my mom another dress. Simon secretly wiped away a tear and showed me a smile that was uglier than crying. My Mina, may you live forever. Simon didn't let me make the dress for Mom. He said the doctor didn't want me to worry. I regretfully rubbed my fingers and muttered quietly, but I think Mom needs a deep red dress. The idea of making a dress for Mom was shelved. Simon gave me a pen and a piece of paper. He said, let's each write down 5 wishes. I endured the stomach pain and said, okay. I carefully wrote my name on the paper, pressed my hands together, made a sincere wish, and then began writing. 1. I want to make a dress for Mom. 2. I want to adopt a cat. 3. I want to eat ice cream and spicy crayfish. 4. I want to take another wedding photo with Simon. 5. After I leave, I hope Mom and Simon can live well together. Simon also seriously wrote down 5 wishes, just like on our wedding day, when he took my hand from my mom and the host asked, for richer or poorer? In sickness and in health, in good times and bad, will you stay with each other through thick and thin, for life and forever? He answered, I will, with the same seriousness, but the 5 wishes he wrote were all, Simon hopes Mina gets better soon. I cried uncontrollably. Later, one quiet night, Simon thought I was asleep. He placed my hand on his face and whispered, Mina, I wish I was the one who was sick, not you, but Simon, do you know, just like you wish for me to live forever, I wish the same for you. 2/3 of the 3 months had passed when the doctor advised Simon, let her go, stop torturing her. Simon's eyes were red, this is not torture, please, save her, she's my only Mina. The doctor looked at me apologetically. I smiled at Simon and said, Brother, let's go home. Simon froze for a moment, then took my hand. Okay, brother will take you home. Mom changed into a festive dress, the one Simon had someone make for her, but these 2 months of suffering had aged Mom too quickly. The once beautiful Mom had become haggard. As I entered the room, I heard the sound of a little kitten meowing. Mom called out, Lucky, and the kitten peeked its head from behind the couch. Mom said, You're called Lucky, and so is it. If she hadn't said anything, I would have almost forgotten. When Dad was still alive, they always called me Lucky, which was my childhood nickname. Afterward, whenever Mom called Lucky, it was followed by a barely noticeable sigh. When I was 6, I solemnly told Mom, Mom, my name is Mina. From then on, Mom started calling me Mina. How could God be so cruel as to take away both her husband and her daughter? I was upset. Simon came out of the kitchen with a bowl of crayfish and a freshly made ice cream. He said, Mina, I bought an ice cream machine, sigh, but I can't eat it anymore. Brother, after dinner, Simon gave me a beautiful wig, and with the hand he used to sketch design drawings, he applied a lovely makeup to cover my exhaustion. He said, Mina, let's go take wedding photos. I've already made an appointment. Only one of my wishes was left unfulfilled. People aren't good at saying goodbye. It was like Mom and Simon, who were obviously heartbroken, still pretending to smile in front of me. With 3 days left in my life, Simon seemed to have already anticipated the end. He held me and whispered softly in my ear, Simon will never forget Mina, Mina will never die. I knew this was because he had read the words in my journal. It said that a person dies 3 times in their lifetime. The first time, when your heart stops, your breathing ceases, and you are biologically declared dead. The second time, when you are buried, people wear black and attend your funeral, announcing that you no longer exist in this world, and you quietly leave. The third time, when the last person who remembers you forgets you, that's when you truly die. The entire universe will no longer be connected to you. This is a quote I copied from The List of Life. Simon had seen it, and death came. My soul saw my mom crying uncontrollably. My strong and gentle mom had cried more in these 3 months than she had in her entire life. Simon held my small urn, crying and laughing at the same time. I leaned closer, and only then could I hear his words. Mina isn't in pain anymore, right? Brother will take you home. It turns out, I had been enduring the pain and biting it back, and he knew. Now, as I recall the other scenes from my dreams, it seems like I have turned everything into a chaotic mess. January 5th. Keep going. Keep going. Countdown to Mina and Simon's 7th wedding anniversary. 1 day. Countdown to Mina and Simon's divorce. 2 days. But I won't be able to wait. My dream has come to an end. That's all the story. What do you think of this story? Share with me in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.